Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Buchanan budget hearing for 2018-2019. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have gone through this budget at a workshop. So if we don't come to any resolution this evening, we will be scheduling another meeting. This budget has to be passed before May 1st. So we've kind of gone through some things, hashed some things out, but let's see where we end up tonight. One of the things I'd like to tell you, not really happy where this budget ended up, and a lot of things, a lot of factors contributed to that. But I'm going to turn this over to our administrator, Kevin Hay, and he's going to explain some of the big budget items, some of the problems we're facing.
All right, good evening. I'm just going to hit on some of the highlights on the expenses and on the revenue of this year's fiscal budget. I'm just going to highlight first that a 1% increase in this budget is about 19,000, so every 19,000 is about 1% in this budget year. So let's jump into it. First thing on the expense side and some of the negatives that got our number up to the 9.94% where it is now.
Kevin, could you mention the page which you're talking when
No,
you
he's
talk
just
about-
giving a
Oh,
general.
you're just going to give a general?
Just a
Oh,
general
okay, all right,
summary,
okay,
that's
right,
all
right.
right now. And if
Move
anybody
the
has
microphone
questions.
a little
That's
closer, I
good
think.
idea.
Yeah,
And if
perfect.
we have any
Thank you.
questions,
Okay,
I guess
sure.
we can go to certain pages or whatever.
Right.
Great.
This year, our special franchises, and we had a loss of $174,948 of assessed value, which would translates to, in the budget, about, $49,898, so, or about 2.6%. So with the change and the decrease in those special franchises, which are set by New York State each year, we started at a negative of 2.6%. So that, added into the percent increases in the budget where we are currently. So some of the other things that,
Excuse me, Kevin, that is the fees that we get from the cable companies?
the cable companies, Con Edison, Lightpath.
Okay, just to clarify,
Algonquin Gas.
thank you.
So yes, they're set by New York State Office of Real Properties every year. We get them.
And why did they go down?
The
state determines the amount every year?
They determine the value. So it's funny, last year's budget, well, it's not funny, but last year's budget, we were up significantly. When you're up significantly, it really helps out your budget and it allows you to do things. But then it seems like we've been in this cycle where it's been going up and then down and up and down. And the fluctuations are sometimes pretty big. And like you say, they have a big hit on the budget. So they start you off in kind of a negative position.
What was the difference this year over last year?
Roughly. Like I said, we lost $174,900
That's how much
of
we
assessed
lost.
value, right, on the assessment roll. So,
okay.
which like I said, translated to about $50,000. So
I see.
in the negative.
So we started right out of the gate.
At
Which is about 2.5% right there.
2.6%,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
if
some of
they
the
would
other.
just stay level, so we could figure our budgets, but that doesn't happen.
It seems to bounce around a lot recently, yeah.
Okay.
So some of the other contributing factors, I'm looking at all employee raises, which include the Teamsters, the non-union employees such as myself, the building inspector. That added to about $40,000 increase into the budget. We also, over years, have been running over the engineer line. So in the budget, as we discussed in the workshop, we upped the engineers line by $15,000.
I just want to go back to the employees thing. I think it's important for the public to know that that's contractual.
Contractual,
Most
right,
of
what's
it is
set in the
contractual.
contracts. Exactly. Going further on, our contingency in the last few years had been $100,000, which isn't a significant padding for our budget. A lot of years we run right to that, and in the past few years, we've been coming right down to the end, and it's very tight. So we added $25,000 to that in this year's budget. Other lines, the police equipment line, we increased slightly because we want to get the purchase of the track system and the computers and the necessary equipment to have that software so they can issue the tickets right at the vehicle instead of the writing of the tickets.
Yeah, we've been
And that-
working on this, the police department's been working on this for a while.
For a couple of
so-
years, yeah.
Yeah, so
So
where,
hopefully we
what's the
get that
status
done.
of that right now?
I can ask the police chief for an
Okay.
update on that. and
Okay.
We'll see, and maybe he can give us an update for the next meeting. But we had budgeted for that and hoping to do it. That also includes money for the lease purchases that we have
Right.
going on now. We have 2 lease purchases which are about to expire next year. We'll pay them off, and then a couple of the new cars will be, I believe, 2021. But I could check the schedule, but that's,
So what's the, what are we adding to the budget for those?
we already had it
Please.
budgeted. We only added about 5,000 on that line. It wasn't as significant, but just to make sure that we had enough money to pay for all those items. The repair lines in street maintenance and sanitation, we have increased because in the last budget year, we had a tough year with the maintenance of equipment and some of the repairs that had to be done, so I added some money there. In the Lens Cove line,
How
we have
much on the
fencing work.
street maintenance?
That's the repairs line for
Yeah, I mean,
both
how much-
sanitation.
yeah.
I believe between the
It's
two
right
is
in
about
here, yeah.
10,000 of
10,000 more than last year.
Yes,
Okay.
in those 2 lines. Lens Cove, we added it, we moved the line, we maintained it at 15,000. We have fencing work and other work to do at the park. We took a beating in some of these storms, and we'll need to do some repairs down there. So that line got moved up about 6,000.
Kevin, does insurance pay for any of that?
Some of the work we're trying to get Entergy because the trees came from their property to get taken care of, but some of the other fence work needed to be done anyway. And we had been planning to do that because we ripped out a fence along the road that had been in disrepair, and we'd like to
Yeah.
get some sort of a fencing
the road.
repair there to protect the park. And
So we had no damage from trees falling on any kind of property that we have?
did have some, and we've been working with Entergy because they were their trees, and
Oh, it's
they
their
seem
trees,
willing
okay,
to
yeah, okay.
reimburse us or to just have their tree crews do the work.
All right.
In regard, we kept the money in the budget from last year to repair the pavilion steel, which was a project we had in the budget last year that we didn't get to do, but I maintained that line because a facility like that we'd really like to keep and like to keep it in good shape. So that money has been maintained in there. The sludge removal at the plant was up 35,000 because we have been wasting more sludge and just the cost that's gone up with the process at the plant. And hopefully, if we make some improvements at the plant, we can get that number down eventually. But at this point, that's,
Well, no, those improvements are going to be in the next year or so.
no,
right?
so that's why the budget's increased to try to get to a number that we're
What's the increase on that?
35,000.
Is that Cook?
He has our current contract. We
Yeah,
bid that
but
out every
I know,
year.
wait, but they also contract with us to take their stuff, right?
We give, the filtrate. They give us their filtrate, and they also have our sludge contract. That was
So if they're charging us more, why aren't we charging them more?
It's a
because there's a
contract that was
contract
set.
issue, and there's a set rate that it goes up by the
Okay.
cost of
It was,
living
it's
every year.
was a 20-year contract when that was done. So our hands are tied for 20 years.
And there is an allowable growth rate
Yeah,
on
but
the
not-
rate every year,
nothing
but not
significant.
significant. yeah.
What line is that? What budget line is that?
I will tell you in a second. I don't have it here on my summary sheet.
Yep. Where is,
It is line 8130-450. So that was increased because that's just, the cost of the sludge removal. Employee benefits, we're talking about the police pension went up by 8,000 and the non-police pension decreased by 8,000. So in the end, it's kind of a wash. Those are the estimates that we get every year from New York State. So I always budget a little bit more because sometimes when the real numbers come in, they're a little bit higher, but it's kind of a wash. One went up, one went down, so,
we can deal with that.
yeah. And then the last biggest cost increase was the healthcare benefits. We had to go up by about $50,000, which also builds in because every year they have an increase in January. So we try to estimate for the cost increase, and this year, from last year, we were a little underfunded, so the increase was about $50,000 there. So those were the large expense increases. Some of the other ones were just small increases that looking at the numbers that we spend and looking at what we spent for the previous couple of years. The other ones were very insignificant numbers. Those were the ones that I just went through were the significant increases.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So on the sludge removal,
Yes,
we went from budgeting 150,000 to 185,000.
correct.
We actually expended 222,000. And the year before, we actually expended 196,000. So are we budgeting enough?
I'm trying to get to
I mean,
a
I know we're
number
trying to be careful and not.
Right.
And, you know, estimate, and maybe being a little too cautious because we have money that was in there that we didn't use last year for specific, certain things. Pavilion roof repair, for example. And there were other large amounts of money. And that amount of money is going to wind up getting used in budget transfers to balance the budget.
That's correct.
So as much as I know we all don't want to have an unnecessarily large increase, are we being honest and real here? Because the sludge removal was 196 2 years ago. It was 222 year-to-date, which means up till March 27th, which means that could grow more.
Right, this year was.
And we're budgeting 185. So are we being wishful?
What is the engineer saying about all this? Like, can the process be improved currently with the technology we have, or is there an issue?
I
Because
think
all of
with
a
the current
sudden, we've been doing good, and then all of a sudden, we're seeing a problem.
increase, right. And I think it ties to the technology that we have at the plant, the lower DO numbers that we have. If we had higher DO numbers, more of that sludge would get eaten up by the bacteria, and our sludge numbers would go down.
So, but isn't there a way to increase that? Isn't there like more bacteria that could be, when he
But
says
only so
DO,
much
it's the dissolved oxygen.
Correct. There's only, so much bacteria that can live with the amount of, you could add more
Just need
bacteria,
more.
but only so much can survive on the amount of oxygen that's in, as far as I understand, and I'm
Okay.
not the operator at the
yeah,
plant,
yeah.
but
Well, why is it just the last 2 years? I mean, the plant is operating under the same technology for a long time, and we're seeing that increase the last 2 years. Was the state regulation made more strict, or?
no, it's also, and it's what's coming in from Entergy and some of our larger units from the village as a whole. I think the sludge and the suspended solids and the type of sludge we're receiving has higher, I guess it's BOD level, so.
Because we've had some situations where we've gotten a sudden rush of, and it overwhelms, I think it overwhelms the plant.
Well, what is the sludge? I mean, just sewage? Individual household sewage? Or is it some other component that, other than normal household wastewater?
It's mostly household waste, but we'll also get from the commercial users as well. I mean,
Do we know what we're getting from them? Is there a problem with what we're allowing to get put into there?
I guess we'd have to have.
Those are,
Okay, so this
you
is-
know what, we can bring the
discussion like this.
engineer
I
in
mean,
to have a
we have to
conversation,
do
because
whatever we
we're
have to
kind of
do.
being unfair to Kevin, because he's not the
No,
engineer
I
or
know.
the
Right.
operator.
And I'm being unfair
Yeah.
because it's kind of a whole separate topic.
Right.
Yeah.
What we're dealing with is the budget. We may have, but, so given our best guess right now, are we being too conservative there? Do you
Maybe
think-
a little conservative. I mean, hopefully the process, we can waste off as much water as we can. We've tried to change our process so that we're giving a thicker, heavier sludge, so we're not when he's not carting off, or Mr. Cook, sludge that's very watery. We've tried to thicken it up to the best of our ability.
Well, I'll be with the engineer and Kevin, and we have a meeting with the DEC next week, so we can discuss some options there.
I reckon we should do that.
That's a good game plan. Okay, I'm
So
sorry.
those are the expenses. Some of the other highlights is we still have $25,000 in for the tax stabilization and $150,000 in there for a paving budget to continue paving roads in the village.
How much for tax stabilization?
25 is currently in the budget right now, and
So how much is in
150.
there for the roads?
150.
150, but,
We still also have budgeted the takedown for the White Street house of 100,000. So if
okay,
that
so
gets
that's going
done
to
sooner
take
than
care of
that.
that. And
we
my
can use that.
understanding is Senator Murphy was giving money. I think that was the additional money that came through And I understand it's about 70,000, so, because of the
Pothole
potholes. And,
repairs.
yeah,
Right.
it was a special thing they do once in a while for, I know Peekskill got 300,000, but we're a smaller community, so I do understand that.
So those are some of the key expenses and as well as the highlights. On the revenue side, pilot payment went up by the full 2% because this year is the first year on the
Yay.
property tax cap that we're at the full 2% property tax cap.
Yeah.
Mortgage taxes have been increasing, so I've increased that revenue. Our recreation fees at the camp have increased, so I moved those up as well. And our sales tax, I couldn't do much with that because we're kind of right on target with what we were hit with our number from last year.
Well, that's the scary part, you see, I appreciate you being conservative, but I see some other municipalities, as they're doing their budgets, they over budget on that, and then the surprise comes.
When you don't receive it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're better off being very conservative on that, because it's something you can't control, too.
So those are the significant changes on the revenue side. I just want to point out on this budget, currently as it is, to the average house of assessed value of $4,500 of assessed value, your current taxes would have been $1,180.57. Under the new tax rate, if nothing else changes, it would be $1,297.89. An increase per year of $117, about $9.78 per month. I also did a couple other numbers, just so, you know, obviously everybody's not assessed at the average. If you had an assessed value of $6,000, I won't tell you what it is and what it would, I'll just show you the increase. The increase per year on that person would be $156.42. That's $13.03 per month. And if your assessed value was $8,000, it would be a $208 increase in 56 cents, and that would be $11.38 per month. So those are like three different levels of assessed value and what the budget currently as it is and the tax rate currently as it is would show an increase.
So what's the per $1,000 of assessed value, the increase would be about $25, how much
For
would it?
which one?
Well, you're doing it based
Oh.
on assessed value. Per 1,000 of assessed value would be about a $25 a year increase?
Right. Our current tax rate now is $262.35 per thousand of assessed value. Without any changes, the new tax rate would be $288.42.
So 25, 26, about
Right,
$25 per 1,000 of assessed value?
Correct.
Okay, so the average assessment is around 4.5?
4,500, yeah.
Okay, so for the average person, just repeating what you said,
Yes.
is about 120 a year.
$17, yeah.
Roughly $10 a
120.
month.
Right.
Okay, so,
That's correct.
I know the percentage sounds high,
so
but
if
when you
that's
break
the
it
average,
down.
that means half the villages are below that and half is above it.
Yes, you could say
So that's
Yes.
kind of the,
that. Yes, you could say that.
Well, because you gave
yes.
figures for higher
I did
assessed
higher
values,
ones,
but,
yes.
you know, so if your home is assessed at 3,000, it would be about $75 more a year.
correct.
No, but that's the average. So you're thinking of the median when it comes to half the village is below and half is above.
Median.
That's true technically,
That's right.
but I think it's probably not too far off, right? The average and the median, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Interesting to see. So this is kind of the summary of the budget currently in its form that it, right now. guess I kinda open
Also,
up
we
for
want to
questions.
mention, because I see some people here from the fire department, we did maintain the 50,000 that we usually do for
Vehicle replacement.
vehicle replacement equipment. So that's still in the budget. Does anybody know where we are with that, what the dollar amount is that's in that line? Do you guys keep track of that? Because I know we give you the 50,000 each year. 149, so that'll bring you up to 2.
Not counting next payment. Brings up 190.
Okay, this payment, this year's. Oh, I think we did. Too late. Okay, yeah, we can still do it. But anyhow, yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. Okay.
That's it, Cap?
Yeah, that's my quick summary.
I made a mistake, I made an error, so I am going to make a resolution to open the public hearing for the budget.
So moved.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're official now.
We're all official. All right, so I'm going to open this up to the board, if any board members have any comments,
Yeah,
and then
I
I'll
just-
open it up to the audience after
Let's
that.
put that comment, Kevin. We are going to get money back from workman's comp. Is that correct?
Yes, I budgeted that into, or at least an estimate, probably on the low end on the revenue side in,
Oh, you've already put that in the
I
budget?
put that in.
How much did you put in?
Let me see. Hold on, I forget.
Good question.
I only have about 23,000 in there. for
We'll get a
that.
lot more than that, though.
Probably would, but, you know, it's hard to estimate.
That's
It's better
back
to
from
have
workman's
more
comp.
revenue come in than what you budgeted for. you know.
Okay.
We could push it up a little bit.
I mean, in that sense, we're being conservative in what we're going to get, because we pay the salary for 2 years, of which we should be getting back, correct?
Yeah, we should get some of them back, yeah.
Like a good portion of it.
Kevin's working now with the attorney also.
Yeah, I
attorney that we
understand what
have,
you,
yeah.
it's not, you know, what, the mechanics of the thing, it's more what I'm talking about is that maybe we do not, right now, the present increase is standing at around 9-something percent, and maybe we don't have to go that high. I think that we can be fairly certain that we're going to get money back from workman's
Workers'
comp. So I think my comment is asking, I think we should take the chance and maybe go for like 7 instead of going for 9 plus. That's my comment.
How much do you think we'd get back from workman's
Well,
comp?
it's 2 years' salary.
It's hard to say.
A couple of $100,000.
Yeah, but you're estimating that, and we're talking about hard numbers in terms
Yeah.
of the budget, so I
Well-
think I'd rather err on the side of, you know, what the hard numbers are.
I mean, that's my
And then
feeling
once
is
whatever we get back is, you know, added on to that, or can be deducted from it.
as we try to estimate what our expenses are going to be, there's going to be overruns on that side too. And if we get more revenue than what we budgeted for, that always helps out,
Yeah.
when, you know, on a budget, you
Yeah,
know.
don't count on it.
Yeah, it's hard to count
It
on.
would have to be, the case would, I mean, I think the case for workman's comp is very positive, and I think it would have to be, I count on it.
Well, no, I mean,
Because
don't count on what we're estimating that, what we might be getting back as opposed to what we indeed will get back.
Well, we should get a lot more than $23,000. It's 2 years compensation at a fairly decent salary. So I don't know what the exact figures are, but I'd rather not be asking the community for another 2% when I think we should take a gamble on it. That's my comment.
Yeah, that just 2-year salary probably is not coming back to us.
I can't imagine you getting a full 2-year salary.
1 year would be good. They're difficult people to deal with, workers' comp. They're just a breed unto their own. All right. So, Rich, you're looking at to bump that up. Are you comfortable with that?
It's up to you, yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. I mean, I'd rather keep the number under what we actually end up getting. But,
Well-
You're conservative, I know, but that's good.
if you want to go up on it.
Well, I mean, you know, again, it's not hard cash
No, you're right.
in the
It's not a
coffers, so.
definite, yeah. it's
No,
not a
to make an
definite
estimate.
number.
and Kevin has already budgeted some, a conservative figure, but from what you just said, you have budgeted some revenue coming back from that.
Right, yeah.
So it's not like it's not accounted for.
I mean, we could go up, we do have more than one workers' comp injury going on right now. If you felt like going up to 50, I mean, we probably would probably safe it's still at 50 if you wanted to go up. It would,
Well, we have like two other worker comp injuries?
they're not nearly as long
Right,
a
right.
time period, so you're
Right.
probably not going to get nearly the reimbursement, but.
And that's.
And both of them are gonna, those others
You
are
should
gonna
get
be in
some sort of
2018? Or
Yeah.
will they go over to 2019?
We probably aren't going to see a payout until the next budget year, I imagine.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
again,
so-
Workers' comp doesn't move fast. by
Right.
any means.
Well,
So-
I think that, I mean, I appreciate that the care that you put into this and that you're, try to be conservative and not have an unnecessarily large increase. But I see money that was budgeted last year that we didn't even use for certain things that wound up getting used for budget transfers to even out the budget, which means we under-budgeted for the things we did spend on because money that we budgeted for things like the pavilion roof repair, for demolition of the house on White Street, that money did not get used, and yet it was going to get absorbed in the budget in budget transfers. We're budgeting, I think, too conservatively and not realistically. And while I don't take any joy in having a large tax increase, I think our main objective here has to be realistic. What are we spending? What are we going to have to spend? I know we've had a lot of unexpected repairs in the last few years on infrastructure. Hopefully we're done with that, but we don't know. There is a decent amount budget in the contingency. I applaud that. But I personally favor feeding the coffers on that tax stabilization fund. As I said last year, I always try to view, every year, I try to view the budget as a plan for several years, not just a one-year isolated plan. We know there will be other tax increases in a few years. Anything we could put aside in that tax stabilization fund can help offset those increases. And I wanted 100,000 last year. We put 25,000. 25,000 is what's budgeted again. I personally would like to see 100,000 go into that. So, I mean, I just want to be realistic when we look at what's going to come up. Do we have any retiring employees with payouts that are going to be necessary? There's things that we're not necessarily looking at if we wanted to look at a complete picture and budgeting for a perspective of a few years, not this isolated year. Now more than ever, we know there's some bleep that's going to hit the fan in the next few years, and I don't think we need to be so conservative now that we wind up with bigger increases then, the ones that are going to shock people.
You're still going to have increases.
Well, right,
But-
so
so
I'm
here-
looking to soften the blow 3 years from now, even if it's a little bit more of a blow now. That's my philosophy on
That
this.
would
So-
increase by what, 4%,
5%.
5%?
So that's the way I feel about it. It's got to be realistic, and it's got to be looked at in terms of what's going on over the next few years. I don't want to be an ostrich with my head in the sand and then wake up in 3 years and say, holy duty, what have we got here?
Well, we are working on some things also, but
I know
nothing
we
else,
are, and
yeah.
there's other things that could
And what I would ask
happen.
this board, I need all hands on deck. I need everyone's contribution on how we can save money and how we can increase our revenue. So
Well-
I really, tonight, we're going to have an executive session, and we have some things that we need to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, well, this whole board is on deck. And we-
Yes, you have to be.
And
So,
we have,
yes.
we've discussed various options that are still, we have a lot of
And we'll
balls in
discuss
the air.
them. We do have a lot of balls in the air.
But, in terms of this budget, anyway, I think that we need to be careful while we're looking at the big picture, and where this village is going and what's going to happen with Entergy and that loss of revenue. That is the big picture, and that's probably the most important picture. But I don't want to nickel and dime our budget so much that we erode the quality of life and erode our fund balance and have less money in reserve. So I just want to be, just a word of caution. I think we need to be looking at the whole perspective of a few years, not just 1 year.
Well, Kevin, I don't know if you can answer this question, but over the last couple of years, our fund balance has grown. This year, I think last year was like about 200,000, the year before that, so it's been
Yeah.
substantially growing, our fund balance.
This year, I think between the two funds, we got over $1 million in fund balance, which is, it's nice that it's growing again. For a while, it was on a decline, so it is nice, and
Well,
we should work to have it be a healthy fund balance.
Right.
Definitely.
Absolutely, we're going to need it. Yeah, well,
What else? What are your other thoughts? Anybody else have thoughts, or Nick, are you finished? Do you have
no,
any thoughts?
that's it. I mean,
Okay, so
it's the specifics
you-
we've discussed the previous meeting, and we discussed earlier today, and it's just, it's just my general outlook is just to be cautious with not being overly conservative at the expense of being realistic.
Well, I think that in terms of the compensation part of what we may get back, maybe another 25,000 or so would be appropriate for that, but I wouldn't want to go any higher than that because, we just don't know.
Right.
You know.
Hey, this sounds like last year. Everyone said 25, I said 100, you said I could see going to 50, and we wound up at 25. So here we are again.
Well,
Okay,
that was over
it's
something
fine. I
different
don't,
that we're talking
the board
about. We're
doesn't have to,
talking two different
I'm
things.
going to say how I feel. The board doesn't have to agree with me.
Well,
It's a
in
five-member board that gets to vote. It's
In
fine.
general, though, it's nice to have the money in the fund balance, but that money can come back to haunt you in many different ways. When individuals or groups come and you have to deal with certain payouts in certain ways, and you're going to court, the court will say, you obviously have the money to pay them. That's when the roosters come home, because you're going to have the money. You're stocking away this money that may work against you in court. And I can go into it further later on, but there are many instances where that can come back to haunt you. In general, I just want to make one or two comments that when their tax bill goes out here, I would like to see an attachment. I know it's a business-sized envelope, but a small attachment. You did one time, Kevin, very nicely, a pie chart.
Oh, yeah, I'll have that in the final budget. I
Yeah,
don't have
maybe
it in
you
the
could,
tentative, but-
maybe you could reduce it to the size that would fit on this thing. But I'd also like, what you did tonight, thank you very much. I
you're
think you outlined very well. I think that not everybody watches this, and people are going to see a tax increase that's not nice. And maybe if they saw where the exact, the major ones, not every, like $50 more here, but the major ones, just in general, let's say, probably I'm just adding up the numbers you gave me here, I was coming up with but maybe about between 100 and 125,000, which are major ones. You could just list them and how much money and what percentage of the increase that they would represent. I think it would all fit on a small attachment to the bill. So I think it would add, number one, it would add transparency to how we're spending the money. Number two, it would give people an idea of what we face down the future, because most of these expenditures are, basic things you have to do. You have a house,
Right.
something happens to your house, you got to fix it. Your refrigerator dies, you got to buy a new one. These are the type of things, and I think that the population here in Buchanan would get a better understanding of what. But also, I want to make a note too that yes, it's $117 for an average for the year, and I understand that for a lot of people that sounds minor, but there are people it's not minor. So I'd like that to be put on the record. Thank you.
And there's some of these expenses they're just out of our control too. The assessed value one, that's just.
Oh, you could easily
Yeah.
account for the 10% increase just based on things that were out of our control.
Yeah,
More
just add
more than
everything up.
10%.
Yeah.
Which means we're already cutting somewhere just to keep it at 10, I believe. By the way, Rich, that's why I kind of like the dedicated fund, because it can only be used for tax offsetting future tax increases, as opposed to being part of the general fund. It's a
That
specific-
it could still be held against you in different courts.
Well, I don't know. Maybe. Sounds kind of speculative. I don't know.
Dwayne, Rich,
I'm finished.
okay, all right. That's a good idea, I like that with the tax bill.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, on the
visual.
tax bill, the town does that, don't they? They break down the tax bill on what it is, key
Well,
components?
they break it down on a couple of line items, but this would be the pie chart, which kind of take care of that, but the actual increase of the amounts, in other words, would be taken care of by what Kevin has kind of summarized in the general thing. I guess it would be the same, saying if you're you're sitting down with your spouse and figuring out what you're going to spend for the year in your house, and one of them forgot about the tree that fell on the house that you have to spend money on this year, something like that. So that's what
There's
I
always that, that's the
want to
contingency.
relate that to the people in the village of what, we've got vehicles that have got to be kept up, we've got older vehicles, we've got whatever, out in the highway things, roads have to be fixed, and all the, just general stuff. And I think more, the average taxpayer probably feels that politicians and government just takes the money and it just disappears into the sky or something. So I think it would be good for everybody here to know we're not just, we're trying to do this at the minimum amount of money, and we have everybody involved, and we're not spending your money just in willy-nilly kind of a way.
And Kevin, you did a great job with this. I actually thought the percentage was going to be higher this year, and to keep it under 10, which, might hit some people in the pocketbook a little bit, but to keep it under 10, to go any higher than that, I wouldn't be in favor of that. Nice job. Thank you.
So, shall I open it up to the audience? We're ready? Okay. Would anybody like to make any comments from the audience on this budget? Thank you. And please give your name.
Twin Router, 182 4th Street. I'm not the best public speaker, so it's going to take me
You're
probably a
fine.
little bit.
Can you sing?
No, I can't sing. You don't want to hear that anyway. But I appreciate, you're right. And 10% is $165 for me. It's not going to break my bank personally. It is what it is this year. I agree with Dwayne also with the whole let's not overestimate on what we're going to get back, because the nuts and bolts are the nuts and bolts. Now, to Nick, I don't like to take extra money and just put it in some special account, because that's just money that's taken from me prematurely. So that I'm not a favor of.
It's
now,
kind of like a Christmas fund,
I don't like it.
Okay.
So I take the money out of my pocket on Christmas and life is good. But now when we do building permits, when they're closed, do we reassess?
The building.
At the end of the year, right, I get a list of the building permits, the work that's done, estimates of cost, and we do look at increases for certain amounts of work.
Because that could help us out too, because a lot of houses are getting really
Sure.
done up.
And we do that every year.
Another thing is, I know this is very unpopular, but maybe a new tier. Contracts are coming up soon. I know my wife is going to possibly get a new contract, and she's going to be paying even more. I don't like taking from what people already have. It's a promise that was given to them that should be kept. That's how I feel about that. But maybe new hires. They could pay into their health insurance a little bit, something small, something nominal. It'll help out in the future, because you have some open slots that are going to be filled eventually. But that's just a couple ideas that I had, and that's all I really had to say. And I thank you guys.
Thank you.
So good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Walter. Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? Got a quiet group this evening, huh? Okay. So, what would the board like to do? I am in agreement with, I know what you're saying, Rich, but I try to be on the revenue side. I don't want to overestimate on that. That just makes me nervous.
Well, I think just that, as Nick said, the mandated stuff from the state that it's out of our control puts us right there at the top of the line anyway, so.
Yeah, because this is unusual for us to be at this number.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But
You know,
it's a
and,
tough year.
and with the loss of the revenue that we've seen from last year. that-
Right out of the gate, yeah. Right out of the gate, we were down.
So hopefully, we'll get the compensation money in, and it'll help us, down the road. But I think where we're at on that number is where we're at.
Okay. What's everybody's thoughts? I really don't want to go over where we are right now, but what is everybody else's thoughts on putting 100,000 more into the fund?
I would Wait.
Tax stabilization fund? Oh, I
Tax
think-
stabilization.
I think it's pretty clear people don't want to do that,
Okay.
right?
I'm just asking everyone, so I get a feedback from everyone. Okay. Were there any other things that, I mean, this is a very tight budget. This is, like Walter said, this is what it is.
Are we gonna get any savings by bidding the highway jobs with the town again? Is there any savings in that?
No, we're, you know what, we're not, we're looking, everything's on the table, but we're not there with the numbers.
Okay.
And you know what, I can honestly tell you, even through that survey, people like the services here.
Yeah.
Even if we went, I don't know if there would be a savings, I don't think so. But even if we went to the town, where there was some chatter, which I'm not for.
No, I'm just talking
with
about on
the
the highway
benefits.
programs.
Well,
Oh.
with even just the garbage.
Talking about paving.
Right.
Oh,
We're
so
talking
we're
about
talking
paving,
paving.
not the highway
Right.
department.
We
Yeah,
do,
right,
we
with
bid.
paving.
You know, we still have that bid open from last year, which was a very good bid that we're still able to use for paving, but that's straight paving. That's nothing
That's
else,
just
no
milling and
curbs,
paving, right?
nothing.
So that's no, they don't have curbs
There's
in their
no,
bid,
yeah,
right?
there's no
But since I
fat
went
there
down
at
to
all.
the highway situation,
Yeah.
there was talk about possibly, I'm not for this, the garbage, and I'm not for that because that's going to change the whole situation here of the service that we have. So, but we are going to run all the numbers so everybody understands what the numbers are that we have when we get to the 2 years down the road with Entergy leaving. We are also going to be having conversations with Entergy to try to renegotiate. So there's things that are happening, but this year's budget, there's not much I can do with this,
Can I
unfortunately.
also just say, you know, we've been doing this now since 2010.
Yeah?
Most of this board has been here since, you know, for quite a while. And the first few years that I did this with some of you and more recently with all of you, we eliminated anything that we deemed to be fluff. It's, as far as I'm concerned, for the last 5 years, this has been a pretty lean budget. So, you know, when we talk about amounts and unexpected expenses and this and that, we're not working with, you know, I mean, it was in those first few years, we went through every line and we agonizingly squeezed 500 here and 1,000 there and, you know, what I would call fluff, any place that we could eliminate extra. And that's why we kind of are budgeted tight now, so if unexpected expenses come up, you know, we've got to transfer from another budget line that we might not have used as much. It is a guessing game, and I, you know, when I raise these points, I don't mean to take away from the job you did. I know that there's a lot of work to this, you know, it's nothing personal, but I just want to raise the questions. But, you know, I don't think we're dealing with a budget that has a lot of waste in it. You know, this is something we cut the fat off of it quite a bit for the first 2 or 3 years, and since then, it's just been a maintenance program. That's it. I'm finished speaking.
Are you finished now? Good, okay. Just checking. So, what's the board's pleasure? I know everyone's not happy with this budget, but do you think this is the budget we should put forth for this year?
I would say yes.
I would agree.
I would say yes, too.
I'm still up in the air. But yeah, if it,
So what is,
obviously.
you're just held
obviously-
up by that, the revenue of the
Yeah,
coming in, I see.
you know, I'm concerned about that, but if that's, you know, it's already 4 people, so I think it's a go then. Since, you know, that's what we do.
No, I do understand what you're
Majority
saying, because
vote.
you feel that there could be more, but I'm just a little concerned. You know, I don't
No,
want
I understand everybody's concerns, right.
to, dealing
It's a
with.
different way of looking, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so there are no other comments from the floor? On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I assume that was to close the public hearing?
That was to close the public hearing. Now, would you like to vote on the budget?
Oh,
Or
do we?
that's it?
We don't have a
That's-
resolution
Don't have
prepared.
that
I
yet.
could have one at
Okay.
the,
Well,
at the
no, I
meeting.
Oh,
think we,
sorry.
we had a date set to do that, right? Do we have
No,
a,
Budget
today
has
was
to
our-
be
do we
adopted
need
by
to
May.
vote on this tonight?
No, we don't have to.
We could, Okay.
This has to be
Well, the-
adopted by May 1st, which
We
our
could've had the
next meeting
resolution.
falls on May 1st.
Okay, so
coincidentally.
we will do that on the May
We'll have a
1st.
resolution prepared
Oh, okay.
to adopt the budget
So,
at
but that just
that
closes
meeting.
the public hearing.
Yeah.
That's just
what I
closing the
was
public.
anticipating.
Sorry.
I thought that's what we were going to do.
I thought so
May
too.
I didn't think
But that's
we-
okay.
yeah, I didn't think
You
we were
didn't think
ready
we'd
to-
resolve it this evening?
We didn't
There's-
talk about it.
There's
you know.
really not much, I wish there was a lot I could do, but.
We had the workshop where we
Yeah.
went through some of the particulars, and I guess any tweaking took place after that workshap, right?
Yeah, I mean, we
or-
kind of went
So
through
we'll do
it,
it May 1st.
and, yeah, we
That's
didn't
right.
really even make that many changes in
No.
the workshop, so.
May 1st.
We'll do
May
the
Day,
resolution.
May Day, May Day.
We'll do it May 1st.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's where we are.
You wanna make a motion to go into
We're
executive?
going to make a motion right now. Thank you, Rich. Rich keeps me on track. Make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
No
everyone.
monies will be.
And no monies will be expended at all, believe me.
And take a 5-minute break, please.